New York's cannabis regulators have finalized the rules for the budding industry, authorizing a slew of changes that will allow almost anyone to open an adult use cannabis business. But the new regulations have people in the state's newest industry worried, concerned that the slow pace of approving their business may have put them at a disadvantage. There's excitement and interest. And during a meeting on Tuesday, the State Cannabis Control Board, which sets policy for the Office of Cannabis Management, finalized cannabis regulations policies, and now almost anyone who can legally open a business in New York can apply to open a cannabis business, and the types of businesses that can open have expanded. It's expected to introduce many more applicants to the industry, which has seen only 23 state licensed dispensaries open despite thousands of applicants. In a quote, the office expects a lot of excitement and interest in these applications, and we are committed to providing as much information as possible regarding an applicant will need to prepare in order to apply, said Chris Alexander, OCM's director, during Tuesday's meeting in Albany. The conditional licenses, the industry has been operating strictly under conditional early form licenses dedicated to those who had been charged with a cannabis crime under prohibition or nonprofits that worked with them. The conditional licenses will be phased out by June, and all businesses operating conditionally and in good standing can apply to transition to a full license. The move comes right as OCM battles in court over its conditional licenses, and a group of service-disabled veterans who have not yet been permitted to pursue licenses argued that the program violated the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, not including them in the allowed groups for a conditional license. A state Supreme Court judge halted the program entry and ordered the OCM to pursue final regulations late last month, and they have created 8 classes. Under the regulations approved on Tuesday, there will be 8 different classes of cannabis businesses: plant nurseries, cultivators, processors, cooperatives, distributors, dispensaries, delivery services, and micro businesses. Micro businesses will be permitted the latitude to grow, process, and sell their own marijuana in small quantities of about 500 pounds per year, and micro businesses and dispensaries are the only 2 facilities permitted to apply for on-site consumption permits. The regulations further defining on-site consumption have not yet been developed, and additionally, anti-monopoly rules have been put in place preventing anyone from holding a license from a retail shop alongside a license for a provider. Investors can have a non-controlling interest in multiple licenses and a controlling stake in one license, but they cannot invest in both retail and production. Priority status and speedy processing of applications from people impacted by prior prohibition, minority and women-owned businesses, distressed farmers, and service-disabled veterans was also codified. But there's a lot of advocate concerns but the new regulations are controversial among the hundreds of people who already had conditional dispensary, cultivator, or processor license, and those awaiting action on the licenses they've begun the process to get. The decision to open the program to everyone, which will start on October 4th, while hundreds of conditional applicants still await entry, has them concerned. The Farm Bureau, representing cultivators, and the State Cannabis Association, representing current businesses, have opposed the new regulations, and advocates are especially concerned about the decision to allow the nearly decade-old medical marijuana companies called registered operators, better known as the ROs, to apply for adult use licenses. Companies like Verilife and MedMen and Aton, with multi-state operations and millions of dollars in annual revenue, are likely to pursue adult use licenses for their medical facilities across the state. Medical growing operations under other less well-known but still significant companies could seek adult use growing licenses as well. And in a quote, they say, "For New York to protect locally based small businesses, the following steps must be taken. 1, reform the potency tax. As it disproportionately harms small businesses. 2, regulations must be immediately fixed, and Cannabis Association officials said in a statement. They say this includes giving the ROs and small locally based cultivators and processors equal limits of canopy space. 3, prioritize the enforcement of illegal operators instead of coming down on legal and small businesses with more endless red tape. And they say that they're going to push the farmers out. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Renee St. Jacques, the Associate Director of Public Policy for the Farm Bureau, said during the board's public comment session Tuesday that the ROs are a major issue. Allowing the ROs to come in is not the answer. It is the issue, she said. It's just going to push the farmers out, just like you've seen in other states. In a quote, New York's cannabis farmers and processors have been united in their criticism of the Cannabis Control Board and the OCM the last few months, and thousands of pounds of marijuana products still sit in their facilities across the state, accounting for thousands of work hours and billions of potential revenues that cannot be sold because there is no store shelf to sell them on. Cannabis grown under state licenses can only be sold at state-licensed dispensaries, not across state lines, or even on tribal-owned and regulated dispensaries on Native American lands across the state. And the cannabis industry, they say, in New York, they say we're still struggling. The state of the industry is so bad, advocates say, that some marijuana growers are talking of self-harm. On Tuesday, Jeanette Miller, the co-founder of Cannabis Farmers Alliance, wore a handmade noose of rope around her neck to the Cannabis Control Board's meeting, meant to demonstrate how dire her situation is. She says, I'm wearing this around my neck today because I feel like I'm going to hang myself, she said. We're tired, we're done, we're struggling, she continued. We need help. You don't answer, she says. Well, there's a lot of situations going on in New York, and this is just the continuation of an ongoing problem. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Is New York going to fix themselves with these rules, or are they just going to keep on perpetuating the same ridiculousness that New York has been pushing this entire program so far? What do you guys think?
I think that my least favorite topics in the industry right now is New York cannabis and safe banking.
Really?
These are my two least favorite topics.
I've been loving the New York scene.
New York, yeah. I mean, listen, I get it. I'm a Californian, and we are laughing all the way. Just every minute of the day, we're laughing at what's happening in New York. It's a nightmare, and we're still thriving in New York, so it's not really a bad situation for us, right? But man, like, there's always going to be opposition to every single proposal or every single recommendation that people make. How many folks in the OCM office have ever worked in the cannabis space or worked with cannabis plant? Do any of them have any kind of idea of what the aches and pains really are?
A number of them have worked. A number of them. And I find it laughable that California is laughing at New York, because California is so fucking buttoned up and such a wonderful market to participate in.
Well, I'm not saying that our market's great. I'm saying that
we do find humor in New York.
Are surviving because of New York.
Right, because you had a market prior to opening. These guys did not, and they are basically getting up from fucking nothing. We all knew this day was coming, when card licenses were going to stop, and then they're going to open it up to the rest of the market. So I don't see how this is anything except progress and what was expected. So I don't know why you find this so amusing, Jason Beck. This was the next step, and it always was the next step. People, I don't understand why everyone just thinks that there is going to be some amazing market immediately. That's not how this industry works. It takes time, especially when you come in from nothing.
There's an amazing market in New York, but it's word of mouth.
And especially when you're coming out of prohibition the way that we are, you never know what's going to come. The best possible way to predict what's to come is to study the prohibition of alcohol and its industry reemergence back into a compliant market. That's really the only way to get a slightly close glimmer to what might be.
Like the languaging of keeping retail and production separate. I thought that was a good idea in California as well, and would have probably led to a little bit equitable market for everybody. The moment you allow for vertical integration, then growing their own weed and selling it and kind of sloughing off all of the independent producers becomes a reality. It's just vertical integration.
That is true. I mean, why sell someone else's weed when I can sell my own weed? Just saying.
You just absorb that percentage. Why have somebody else distribute and take 30% when you can do that yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that.
You'll be slightly more likely to pick up the check at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And at the same time, you'll know if your bills are paid or not. As opposed
Right?
to when you got a lot of companies that didn't have their excise tax paid by different distributors, even though they collected it and whatnot. There's a whole big shit show going on.
I do like the language and keep retail and the producer separate. Anything we can do to kind of keep the market smaller allows for more small players to win. And what we see when small players win is we see higher quality cannabis and higher quality hash. Higher quality cannabis and hash lead to better outcomes for all.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, the reality is that the average consumer in a retail store doesn't want to pay those numbers that they're going to pay for a high quality product. They want the cheapest rung of the mill duff of the buff. You know what I'm saying? The bag.
They don't want the cheapest thing, Jason. Most of them are leveraged into having to accept the cheapest thing because of that whole capitalist thing. And
I don't believe in
about.
that. I don't buy that argument. I'm not buying that argument.
It's very easy not to buy that argument from a condo in a high rise in LA where all your bills are paid.
Amazing, right? You're so silly. I didn't realize I had a condo or a high rise.
I agree with
you, Matthew.
Saint Germain. I don't think people have been exposed to what is good quality cannabis.
They have. That's
and when
correct.
that happens, then they are going to want it. I do believe, Jason, that there is also the Budweiser crowd as well. Who's just like, just give me whatever you got. I don't care. But I think there are going to be enough folks out there who appreciate what they're putting into their bodies and are going to ask for it and look for it as well. And I think there's plenty of room for both of those markets.
Well, there is definitely plenty of room. The problem is that low budget, that Pabst Blue Ribbon consumer that you mentioned is the type of people that'll be shopping in dispensaries, and the people that like that craft type of stuff that are going to spend those extra dollars are just going to get it from who's ever producing it off the streets.
No.
Yeah, that's what's happening. Yes, that is what's happening,
that
Gretchen.
Stuff is just going to be
reality.
Off the streets. I disagree. I think they're trying to do some interesting things out in Humboldt to bring their product legally to all markets, which you will be hearing that in due time. But I do think that there will be a pathway for farmers markets and other things. And I'm not talking about state farmers markets. I'm talking about getting out to be able to come and get the cannabis that you want. You'll see, Jason Beck. I'd love to make another bet, but you don't fucking pay him, so why should I bother?
I mean, it's not. You're just blowing hot air right now, Gretchen.
Let's not even bother.
It's okay.
Okay.
Just blowing hot air.
Mark my words, Auntie Gigi is always right.
Yeah, right.
I have to disagree with you when it comes to the Emerald Triangle, and this is unfortunately because I have a wealth of family that I really love deeply there. But the only reason the Emerald Triangle was the place to be was the lack of staffing dollars for the sheriffs, the ability to hide what you were doing in the woods. Now that we're in a legal space, every single one of those producers is going to lose because there's an abundance and a wealth of outdoor and greenhouse opportunities that are located 5 minutes from the 5 and the 99. One of the biggest ways you're going to lose is this. You buy a load of gravel, right? So you got a 10-acre grow. You got to buy 100 loads of gravel. The 5 minutes off the 101, you're going to pay $20 a dump truck load for gravel. Live 2 hours off the 101, you're going to pay $20 a dumpster load for gravel. Difference is you're going to pay that driver hourly $400 to $800 an hour from the moment he gets his truck to go load up the gravel, to go to your house and drop off the gravel to when he comes home. But the guy who lives 5 minutes off the 5 is going to end up paying $400 to $800. Guy that lives a few hours off the 5 is going to end up paying $800 to $1,600 or more. And when you multiply that against every single input, what you're going to see is that there's no way that small cultivators who are living on roads up in the middle of nowhere can really compete long term in the legal game. That's not something I'm advocating for. That's not something I'm happy about. I'm not happy about it. It's just uncomfortable truth that should be talked about as soon as possible for the benefit of those folks that are in that position.
I hear you, Saint Germain, and I know the additional costs that involve coming out of the Emerald Triangle. I'm well aware of the farmer's plight up there. However, I think you're underestimating their heart and their will to survive. I don't think these people are all just going to roll over and die or all go work for big boys or, move to a better location. I think people love where they're at. I think they love the appellation. They love the community. I think they are going to work as hard as they fucking can to keep that space going.
I agree 100% with that statement, and any of them that are smart would be smart to just shrink their operation a little bit, focus on quality, get back into the trap lane, find a dedicated consumer base. Used to be that if you were growing illegally, you had to worry about stormtroopers with machine guns descending from helicopters to just totally fucking destroy your life and put you in prison. Ask Brother Luke who's watching. Now, the biggest thing that you're risking is a guy with a clipboard coming to try to fine you money if I lived in Humboldt and wanted to continue to live in Humboldt, I would shrink my operation to where I could find it viable moving forward. It's really easy to do. I'd find a small co-op group of people who wanted to buy my cannabis, and I would keep my head down, and I would create super high quality cannabis that I would distribute through a local network, very similar to the CCOF, I think, or CDFA farm boxes. What I would start doing, I'd just start signing people up for ounce a month delivery. I think that we as cannabis cultivators and long-term actors who have been moving, against the current paradigm of society should really flex our imagination and not just ask for permission for what we should do, but we should move morally correct into the future, doing the right thing, and force the government to catch up with us as we always have.
And
I ate a lot of acid, bro. I just got back from Burning Man, dude. Who knows?
Oh boy! And on that, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.